Christmas dinner at my parents' house, the most wonderful time of the year, right? Not for me. Not when my husband, Mark, was the main course for my family's annual roast. Every year it was the same story. My parents, my older sister Chloe, and her perpetually smug boyfriend Alex would gather around the glistening turkey and proceed to carve up Mark's self-esteem. This year, however, things were about to take a very, very different turn. It started subtly, as it always did. My mom commented on Mark's sweater. "Oh, Mark, another one of your cozy sweaters. So practical." The word practical was delivered with the same enthusiasm you'd reserve for a trip to the dentist. Mark just smiled politely. He was used to it. He was a high school history teacher, and in my family's world of finance and law, that was practically a vow of poverty. They saw him as a simple, unambitious man who had somehow tricked their brilliant daughter into marrying him. Next up was my dad. "So, Mark," he said, pouring himself another glass of expensive red wine, "still molding young minds? Any future titans of industry in your class? Or just more history buffs?" He chuckled, and Chloe and Alex joined in. I squeezed Mark's hand under the table. He squeezed back, a silent signal that he was okay. But I wasn't. The condescension was so thick you could cut it with a gravy ladle. Chloe, never one to be left out, chimed in, "Oh, Dad, be nice. It's noble work." She then turned to her boyfriend, Alex, draping her arm over his shoulder. "Alex just closed a huge deal this week. His bonus alone is probably more than Mark's annual salary." She said it with a faux apologetic smile that made my blood boil. Alex, a senior partner at a prestigious investment firm, just preened. He was the golden boy, the standard against which Mark was constantly measured and found wanting. "Speaking of which," Alex said, leaning forward, "Mark, I hear the school district is having budget cuts. Must be tough. Let me know if you ever want a real job. I might be able to find a spot for you in the mailroom." The table erupted in laughter. That was it. That was the final straw. I was about to unleash a tirade I'd been rehearsing in my head for 5 years, but Mark beat me to it. He calmly placed his fork down. "Thank you for the offer, Alex," he said, his voice even. "But I'm quite happy where I am." My mom sighed dramatically. "Oh, Mark, don't you have any ambition? Lily deserves more than just happy. She deserves security, a nice house, not this shoebox you live in." I saw a flicker of hurt in Mark's eyes, and my heart broke. He worked so hard. He was the kindest, most intelligent man I knew. He spent his evenings not just grading papers, but also working on his own passion project, something he rarely talked about. It was a niche history website and forum he'd built from the ground up. He called it his little hobby. Before I could defend him, Alex, who had been scrolling on his phone, suddenly froze. His smug expression vanished, replaced by one of utter shock. He looked up from his phone, his eyes wide, and stared at Mark. Not at Mark, the high school teacher, but at Mark, as if he were seeing him for the first time. The entire table went silent, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. "Wait a second," Alex stammered, his voice barely a whisper. He pointed a trembling finger at Mark. You're Mark Peterson?" My dad scoffed. "Of course, he's Mark Peterson. Have you had too much wine, Alex?" But Alex ignored him, his gaze fixed on my husband. "No, I mean, are you Prater Mark Peterson?" A strange silence fell over the room. I had no idea what he was talking about. Prater was the screen name Mark used on his history forum. It was his online persona, the name known to his small community of fellow history nerds. How on earth would Alex know that? Mark just gave a small, almost shy nod. "I am," he said quietly. Alex's jaw dropped. He looked from his phone to Mark and back again, his face a mixture of disbelief and awe. "Oh my God," he breathed. "Oh my God, I can't believe it." Chloe looked annoyed. "Alex, what is going on? You're being weird." Alex finally tore his eyes away from Mark and looked at his boss, who was also a guest at the dinner and had been quiet until now. "Sir," Alex said, his voice shaking with excitement. "Do you know who this is?" He explained that his firm was in the final stages of acquiring a portfolio of rapidly growing digital media companies. One of the most valuable assets, the one their entire acquisition strategy hinged on, was a company called Kronos Media. It was a powerhouse in the online historical content space, with millions of subscribers, a massive ad revenue stream, and a fiercely loyal community. It was valued at, and I quote, north of $50 million. And the founder, the sole owner, the anonymous genius who built this digital empire from his laptop, was known only by his online handle, Prater. My family stared, dumbfounded, as Alex explained how his firm had been trying for months to identify and meet this mysterious founder. They had sent dozens of emails, made countless offers, all to no avail. The founder, Prater, seemed uninterested in selling. Alex looked at Mark with pure, unadulterated reverence. "You're him," he said. "You're the guy my entire firm has been chasing for 6 months. You're Kronos Media." My head was spinning. I looked at Mark, my sweet, humble, unambitious husband, the man who wore cozy sweaters and drove a 10-year-old car, the man my family had dismissed as a nobody. He just sat there, looking a little uncomfortable with the sudden attention. My dad was the first to speak. 50 million, he croaked, his wineglass frozen halfway to his lips. My mom's face was pale. Chloe looked as if she'd been slapped. She stared at Mark, then at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. The smugness had completely evaporated, replaced by utter confusion. Mark finally spoke, directing his words to me, ignoring everyone else. "It was just a hobby that got a little out of hand," he said with a soft smile. "I never told you the numbers because I didn't want it to change anything. I didn't want you to think, I don't know, I love teaching. The website was just for fun." Just for fun. He had built a $50 million company just for fun. The rest of the dinner was a blur. My family, who had spent years looking down on Mark, were now falling over themselves to talk to him. My dad was suddenly asking for investment advice. My mom was calling him a hidden gem. Chloe kept asking why he hadn't said anything, her voice laced with a new, unfamiliar respect. Alex looked like he had just met his personal hero, stammering apologies and offering Mark his business card, as if Mark needed it. As we drove home that night, the car was silent for a few minutes. I finally turned to him. "A little out of hand?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. He laughed, a real, genuine laugh. "Okay, maybe a lot out of hand," he admitted. "I was going to tell you. I was just waiting for the right time." I shook my head, a smile spreading across my face. My husband, the secret history mogul. It felt surreal, like a movie plot. That Christmas, I received the greatest gift of all, vindication. It wasn't about the money. I couldn't care less about that. It was about seeing the shocked looks on my family's faces. It was about them finally seeing Mark for who he truly was. Not just a humble teacher, but a brilliant, passionate, and incredibly successful man who had been playing a different game all along. A game they didn't even know existed. And the best part? He had already won. From that day on, Christmas dinners were very, very different, and my husband was never called a nobody again. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed our story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.